Alright, so how do you define racism?
It's jealousy, man.
Just jealousy? How you doing today?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, thank you. Alrighty, so how do you define racism?
Racism is defined as the prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against individuals of a different race or religion based on the belief that their religion or race is superior.
Okay, so how would you define racism?
Racism is one group of people believing that they are superior to a separate group of people.
How would you define racism?
Well, that's a really hard question to answer, but we think that it's because
of like ignorance of people, lack of education, because of like stereotypes,
discrimination against one.
How do people, you said that people encourage people to be racist, how do they encourage them?
It could be parents just raising their child to be racist, or friends making it look cool to that kid. And, it could be a cool kid doing it, and this other kid don't want to do it. So
So do you believe that racism will lead to further problems in the society?
Oh yeah, it's definitely gonna tear this country apart. Definitely.
In what ways do you see it tearing the country apart?
It's gonna mess a lot of people's heads up. It's already doing it, making a lot of communities worse. And it's just not. I mean, if everybody was on our side and they seen how we felt and what happens in the communities, they'd say the same thing, man. It's messing everything up.
Alright, so what do you think generates racist thoughts within an individual?
Oh, it's definitely peer pressure, like society. No one's inherently racist. It's not how it works. It's growing up in a racist society or growing up surrounded by stereotypes. It depends on your culture. If you're definitely in a white community where there's very little black people, having black people intrude on your town, city, whatever, are definitely going to lead to stereotypes, which eventually lead to racism.
Okay, so you say stereotypes. What are some of the stereotypes that you believe are issued with racism?
I mean, it depends really on the race. For African Americans or blacks, I know common ones are just that we all enjoy fried chicken, watermelon, which in and of itself isn't necessarily wrong, because I feel like a lot of people like those things, but it should be associated with only one race.
Okay, and what do you believe that some of the stereotypes are that are issued with racism?
Some of them can go as harmless as the typical black men are always stealing, or Mexicans are always outside working, white men are just fat and rich, and other stuff like that can go on. Some of them are stereotypes, some of them are just borderline racist.
How you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Good. So, how do you think people become racist?
I think people become racist through what they see in the news and how they're raised, and just an overall sense of their beliefs and morals as they grow up.
So, do you believe that racism will lead to further problems in the society?
I do, because there's always going to be with that racism, there's always going to be hatred towards a certain group, and it's not going to be able to let anybody further in their life. It's going to lead to more problems than it did, and it's going to lead to peace.
So, any examples?
Civil War, that led to Civil War.
Yeah.
And I think coming with all the cop shootings and people going after each other, I think it's going to lead to a more uneasy feeling in the United States.
Alrighty. How can we stop racism?
I think we can stop racism by just coming together and being accepting of people's differences, no matter what culture or race they are.
So how do you think racism is punishable?
Yeah, truthfully, I don't think it is. As of right now, there's no real punishment for racism. You can really get away with just about saying anything or doing anything, and it's not like there's nothing against it's not against the law. There's no one's gonna say anything about it to you directly, unless they have a huge issue with it. If you say something racist about a black person to a black person, yeah, they're gonna take up an issue with it, but you're not gonna be punished by society as a whole. That no one's gonna say anything about that. So as of right now, I don't really see racism as a punishable act.
So you think it was just frowned upon?
It's really, it's frowned upon. You can't punish racism as it is.
Do you think racism is a punishable act?
I don't think so. It'd be really hard to punish someone.
Yeah, because people can be, it's depending on the difference that, if you murder someone based on a race, that's obviously going to be punishable, but if there's more subtle things that people do every day that you can't really do anything about it.
Well, you could have like harassment. Like people could be harassing other
Yeah.
people based on like.
Yeah, that should be punishable, like in some way. But then some areas don't really do anything about it, which is pretty unfair.
So do you think racism will lead to further problems in society later on?
I feel like it already is. A big
Yeah, it's
problem.
already a big
Like how?
issue.
Like how?
I mean, a lot of people have been like hurt or somehow like traumatized by racism, that like they've been affected by it in some sort of way. And like there's been tons of different things on the news, for example. There's been like riots based on racism. It really affects a lot of people.
So what do you think the world would be like if there was no racism?
I don't think that's like even possible.
I don't
It'd
know.
be great, but
That
like,
would be amazing if it
I
didn't
don't think
happen.
it could ever be possible because you're always gonna have that one person who. Even here, like in school, you judge someone for not being like you. Like you're not
Yeah.
friends with someone because they're not like you.